cheaper isn't always necessarily the right answer. Adding value is always the right answer.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where I, Kyle, from Kyle Curtin Real Estate, interview local top dogs in the real estate investing, wealth building, and personal finance industries. Let's build together. What's up, guys? So before we jump into the episode, I just wanted to thank all of you guys so much for listening for the past 99 episodes. It has been absolutely breathtaking to be at 100 episodes already. This has easily been one of the most enjoyable projects that I've ever worked on, and I'm beyond thankful for everything. It has been an extremely fun 2 years of doing the show so far, and I really just can't wait to keep bringing people on and having a ton of fun. So this week, we have a very special guest on the show again. So Brian is an incredibly inspiring investor and owner of Bel-Air Property Management. So we interviewed him in early 2020 for a 3-part episode series. And it was super cool to kind of catch up with him again 2 years later, see where he was to, taking like crazy action to where he is now. And yeah, just kind of like his vision for the future. We had an absolutely awesome discussion. You guys are going to love it. Before we get into this episode, would you guys mind please leaving a rating and a review down below? I know you hear it all the time, but I do definitely always love hearing your guys' thoughts on, how I can make things better, things to change. It means a lot to me. Again, I wanted to thank you guys so much, and here's to a very long time of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Let's jump right into the episode.
What's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to the 100th episode of the Creating Wealth Podcast. My name is Brian Lucier of BHB Group and Bel-Air Property Management, and it is my pleasure as the 100th interviewee, to introduce to you the man, the driving force behind this platform, the man behind the curtain, no one else but my friend, Mr. Kyle Curtin.
Aww.
Take it away, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Brian. Oh my goodness, man. Guys, we were just talking about it a couple minutes ago. Brian was telling me, he's like, for episode 100, I would love to do your intro. I'm like, go nuts, man. Anything you want to do. Super excited to jump in here, guys. We just hit triple digits. Super excited. And I'm 100% blessed to be able to spend it with Mr. Brian here. So, my friend, let's definitely, kind of jump in.
I'm on.
Yes. So, the last episode was a very long time ago.
Your 100th guest.
Yes. There we go. Okay. So, the last episode was a 3-part episode. Brian is the one person on the podcast to date that has had a 3-part episode and has come on twice. So very excited to have him here. But yeah, it's definitely been a while, since we had that last episode or last episodes. So let's jump into your story, man. I remember the last time we were just talking about it a minute ago. You guys were just going down to Aruba and, just starting to kind of begin that next adventure in your life. So I'm very excited to kind of hear all about it since then.
Thank you. So we've been down here on Eagle Beach for about a year and a half now. And in that time, Bel-Air has been booming. I think the last time we talked, I had a goal of hitting 13 units a month. We have passed the 300 mark. We actually weeded. And the end result is we have not really seen a dip in our revenue. So we're managing a little less. We're managing a fewer, more clients, and our numbers are still right where they should be. We've just hired Team Bel-Air. We've got Cindy, Mike, Eddie, Stacy, Julie, Maria, Marina, Brian, and myself, Brian, and I can't forget Yomi. We'd be lost without her, our team mascot. But they're making it work. We've now got Bel-Air East, Bel-Air West, and now in Aruba we're Bel-Air South. My life as it is right now is a series of one-way plane tickets where I'll work with team in Massachusetts, I'll work with the team in California, and then we can be the ringleaders down here, kind of monitoring the whole show. We're using our software, all the Google apps, the Slack, Dropbox. We're just totally in touch with each other. I probably talk to my team leader 4 or 5 times a day, much to her chagrin. But yeah, so Bel-Air has been taking care of itself. And they always say in a business, you've reached a plateau when your business will run without you. So we are there right now, which has opened up the door for Hanju and I. We've always had BHB Group. That's a business, a company that you probably don't know about, but that's our holding company. That's how we buy all of our assets. And we're currently working with brokers in 6 different locations right now in emerging markets. We're in Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Las Vegas, Texas, and Arizona.
Wow.
So it's been exciting. I mean, being able to have somebody else drive the bus, I'm able to jump on another bus. So we've been into those markets. We've been doing research. We started with the whole mainland. Now I call it the upper 48 states. And we're just boiling down our criteria. We're looking for job growth, population growth, diverse economics as far as jobs and different industries there. We like areas that are strong with education, strong with medical. And we added a new ripple to our criteria. We want to be in landlord-friendly states. My first 20 years of investing, we've been part of the country, Massachusetts and California. So we've definitely learned the ropes. We've got our scars. We figured out the hard part. So moving into some of these other markets right now have been great. You hear about people putting together syndication deals, and I always see the same thing happen again and again and again. You'll have this couple or a group of partners go to some syndication boot camp or something like that, and then they run out and find a deal and then say, oh crap, we're not funded. And then they break all kinds of SEC regulations and rules trying to drum up money, talking to people that they never should be talking to, presenting deals and offers that they never should be presenting. So I've always been contrarian in how we've set up and started businesses. This is no different. Before we even got into these markets, we had secured plenty of relationships with investors and backers. We've got a KP, that's a key principal on our team right now with a net worth of 15 million. I was on the phone with some of our other investors today. And here's the funny thing. I know that I've talked to you about this before. Put yourself where affluent people are. Well, Bel-Air Property Management has been great because we're just in the loop of all these other investors and people who want to invest, and a lot of multimillionaires who are buying properties already. And if we prove our salt and do what we're supposed to do, we've had so many of our clients just reach out to us saying, look, we'd like to partner with you. Do you have any deals? We've been hearing this for the past couple of years, and we've been slow to open that conversation, but seeing where the market is gone right now, we've ridden out probably 1.5 market cycles. So I see what's coming. And there's definitely going to be opportunities out there. Funding in place. We've got the whole management team propped up and pulled together right now. So that's always the hard part when you want to go into institutional funding to prove that you could pull this down. But we've got that. We've got the funding in place. We've got the key team members in place. So now we're just looking for the right deals.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at so many deals. We're underwriting so many deals. In Marina, they are part of Bel-Air South. There are two sisters who've been helping us out with a lot of the different aspects of the business. They started on the Bel-Air side of the coin, and now they're transitioning over to the BHB. And they're hungry to learn and grow, and we're more than happy to help them get to where they want to be. So they're doing what they need to do to help us move along. And then all of Team Bel-Air is kind of rowing the boat in the same direction, which we really needed. We've got the maintenance team all covered. We're actually, Hanju and I were looking at the numbers. We just did payroll today, and the guys are hitting enough overtime where it may be time to add another guy. So we're always watching the numbers. Growth is something we always want to do, and then meeting that growth with the right amount of team and resources. So we never want our resources to get ahead of where our is. And we're hitting the point right now where the machine is running. We're probably easing off the gas pedal to get through winter right now. You would not believe what my screens looked like earlier, just going through all the snowplow bids. But yeah, it's that time of the year, most wonderful time of the year, getting all the snowplow bids up and running. So yeah, it's a very interesting time for us right now. The last 20 years have been great. We have created wealth for our family. So Hanju and I can live this lifestyle. We can be on the beach. We can, have a healthier lifestyle. You'll see in the other videos, I've probably lost about 80 pounds because I'm out, I'm active. It's an active lifestyle. Yeah. We're eating better, eating healthier. We're making righter decisions. We're more active. I just got off a stint of traveling. We had to go to LA, to Massachusetts, to New York, to Massachusetts, and we just got back here in Aruba a couple days ago. I did put on 10 pounds. Since I've been back, I've already lost 4 pounds. But the 2 weeks before I left, 1 week I had walked 60 miles in 1 week, and then the following week, 65 miles. So I just can't be more thankful that real estate buy and hold has given us the wealth to this style, a happier life and a fuller life. So here we are. We're ramping up. We're looking at deals. The underwriting is happening. We've got plenty of people in the behind the curtains, folks like yourself, who are just waiting for us to present something that works. And we're following all of our metrics. We're doing our due diligence, and we want to make sure any deal that we present to our investors, we're going to invest in that deal as well. My son coined this phrase decades ago. Dad, this isn't skin in the game. This is blood in the game. And he's right. So we're putting our money in. We're going to be investing right there, dollar for dollar, with all of our LPs. So that's kind of where we are today.
Wow. I love your story so much, Brian. Like, there's so much I want to dig into in there, man. Like, starting off with all right, so let's just jump in. Let's just go nuts. So going to brand new markets that, you guys have never really invested in for yet. What was kind of like the driving factor, to kind of want to go to some of these outside markets and, kind of venture out a little bit?
Well, just to back that up a little bit, some 10, 15 years ago, we were in a syndication in Green Tree, Texas. It's about 240 units. And that one closed out about 5 years ago. So that was pretty good. We've been there, we've done that. So these new markets that we're looking at now, markets have changed. So where we were buying then, we had to just dust off the matrix and start from scratch because markets change all over the place. So this is something that we've been doing for the past 20 years. We've always been looking at alternative markets as well as investing in our backyard. It made sense when it was just my wife and myself to buy in our backyard. It was easier. We could just pull down these bread and butter. There's a lot more due diligence. It's a higher end game. The first payment's got to be made to the mortgage. The next payment's got to be made to the investors. All of my people in the deal got to get paid before I see a penny. So it's a higher game. It's a higher level.
Wow.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't know that, man. I figured, you guys like just kind of invested, in like Central Mass, like the whole time, and maybe like just kind of stuck there. I didn't know that.
Yeah, depending on who's sitting at the table, it's a different conversation.
Yeah, true.
So when we're getting those calls from our marketing leads from Google Drive and all that, and people are reading the reviews from Bel-Air Property Management, they're contacting me as a property manager for their backyard properties, and that's where I am. It wouldn't make sense for me to say, oh, by the way, have you ever thought of a syndication? Because that's not the appropriate way to introduce someone to that business.
Yeah.
Now, after time, our clients who've been with us 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, now we have that relationship. We've had those conversations, and we probably got about 8 to 10 of our clients, maybe about 10 to 12% of our client base who are waiting. Was first, and it be first conversation. Your first conversation as a syndicator should not be, hey, I'm syndicating deals. Do you want to come in? That deal might not be right for you. That risk might not be right for you. It might not be the right time. Are you a credit investor? Are you a sophisticated investor? There's way too many things. I mean, I've read so many stories, listened to so many podcasts where people will vet each other for years before even having that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. We like what you're doing. We're going to watch you for the next 2 years, and then we're going to come in.
Yeah.
There's all those clients. You have a higher responsibility than collecting rent at a tribe.
Yeah.
All yours, bro.
Sorry, I was just jumping in and out a little bit there. But yeah, no, I think it makes a whole lot of sense, man. And like it's extremely interesting, like to kind of hear about like people that may want to do a deal like this on the GP side, kind of take quite some time, to actually vet each other and, not just like a, week, like, oh, this guy's kind of cool. Hey, let's take down 100 units together. And it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, to your point, like, especially with all those additional responsibilities and like, keeping the investors happy and like making sure everything is kind of, going down the path the way it should. And yeah, no, that's huge. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you're not going to win the Super Bowl as a single person. You got to have the right team in place. You got to have the right offense, the right defense. You got to have core personnel to pull down this stuff. And so many of, we've got so many friends doing syndications and deals like this, and it's a reoccurring thing. They give all the credit to their team, and I totally that's 1,000%. They're saying it right. If they didn't have that team, the underwriters, the people building relationships, the broker relationship, deal relationships, the money relationships, it just takes so many moving parts to do all of that.
That's
I
awesome.
do want to revisit one topic that we were talking about.
Sure.
I grilled you pretty hard on meetups. If you remember that conversation, I was saying, at the meetups, we all go to the REIs, and all that, and we shark the room looking for the people with the money, and everyone's looking for the same person, right? And I was boiling it down and just kept hammering you, like, what are your hobbies? What are your affiliations? Where do you find those affluent people in your life that have nothing to do with real estate? And you never know. So we moved down here and it was scary as heck. We didn't know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up moving into a condo complex where my neighbors have got to have some of the brightest business minds I've ever met. We're friends with people who bought businesses, sold businesses, have been in real estate longer than I can imagine, done commercial deals, all kinds of different real estate, and just going out to dinner with these people is having a mastermind right at the table. They've got so many years of experience. I mean, they say if you're the biggest fish in the pool, find a bigger pool to be the smallest fish. Well, we definitely landed. We landed in the right spot. We've made some really great friends here. They're great friends, and I'm more than happy to throw ideas off them. And they're our advisors. We call them our pool of advisors. And yeah, there's a pun in that, because at any given time we can go out to the balcony and they'll be hanging around. And there's all these business mastermind people. They're having a mastermind in bathing suits. So at any given time, away go down there. I started commuting now that I work here in Aruba at the condo. I wake up pretty early. I'll walk down to the Shell station, pick up a few things, then I'll go out to meet the buoys, and then I'll meet with our pool of directors. So I walk the beach in the morning, pick up some shells, I do a little swim out to the buoys, and then I can come back and it's a mastermind in the pool. I mean, people pay tens of thousands of dollars to go somewhere to Maui or some island to meet with a bunch of people like this who can mentor you and train you and force you and kick your butt to get to the next level. It's amazing when you can pass each other going in and out of the elevator. And we're going out to dinner Friday night with some friends, and I can't wait. I can't wait for the dinner conversation we're going to have. I mentioned on one of the last episodes that so thankful to be on, when my daughter-in-law, when she lived with us with my son for a while, my son, my wife, and myself, we've always had real estate dinner conversations. We're talking about deals. We're talking about cash flow. We're talking about markets. Oh, pass the potatoes. And, we could look at our internal rate of investment on this and that and that. Oh, could I have some more sweet curly fries or whatever, right?
Need some salt.
And she's sitting at the table. Yeah. She's at the table looking at us saying, who are you people? And now she's come full speed, and I'll be mentioning some deal or concept with her, and she'll start picking it apart and say, well, Dad, what about this? What about that? What about this? And these are just our dinner conversations that we have.
Yeah.
And now she's at the table and she's in her own right. And she's actually on the acquisitions team for BHB right now. So we've just redone that. I'm sorry?
I said solid. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a family office. And here's another thing you probably didn't know. I am a third generation real estate investor. My grandfather had property. My father was a builder. The only thing my father didn't have in his tool belt was property management skills. So growing up, I've always been around real estate. My wife, she's third generation. Her grandparents owned real estate in Korea. My father-in-law and mother-in-law They owned commercial buildings. They owned real estate. They were buying land in Gangnam before Gangnam Style was even a thing. They were buying in that area when it was just farmland. And now it's like some of the hottest real estate in South Korea. So she grew up around all this stuff. I grew up around all this stuff. Now our kids are like third, fourth generation real estate investors. My grandchildren are going to be fifth generation real estate investors. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons we've dusted off to get back in and do all this. I mean, with Bel-Air and BHB, my wife and I, we created enough wealth to take care of us until they put us in a box. We're all set. But now we want to create generational wealth for our kids, for our grandchildren, for our grandchildren's grandchildren. And we want to enrich the lives of the other investors that we're doing these deals with. We can all raise on the harbor together. And it's exciting being able to create generational wealth for us, for our team members, for our investors, and to enrich the lives of the families who are going to live in these buildings. Because that's always been our number one core, families first. And it's been very rewarding to be in multifamily, and there's nothing else I would rather do. And I just can't wait to see what tomorrow brings.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible, man. That's incredibly heartwarming, and I remember one story distinctly, Brian, and we were talking about it a couple days ago on the phone about one of the stories that you told on one of the last episodes about and like there was a problem in one of your tenants' units, and I forget exactly 100% the context, but there might have been like a leaky pipe or something like that. And the first thing that you did was move them to a hotel room, like order them pizzas, like checking in on them, like making sure like everything's good and they're well taken care of. And like I remember the story because I tell it sometimes, man, because it literally it's one of those things that like has really stuck with me, you know what I mean? And like just something that's always kind of there, like, oh, like that's always remember why you're in this, and everybody just genuinely needs to be loved and cared for at the end of the day, and it can work out very well. And I remember, man, the you were telling me once you did that, it was like the woman's husband, right? Like wasn't he like getting up in your face and he was like, oh, like why are you doing this to like my wife and the family? And you're like, well, like you guys should just be cared for, like you need to be cared for, like we care, and like it's like you deserve it. And he was all like but it's so
do
real,
you
man.
remember exactly what I said to him?
That's
I remember exactly what
gotcha.
he was forcing the issue, and I finally just said to him, says, look, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ died for you. How can I not do this? I'm putting you in a hotel room. It's not, I'm not going to be put on a cross over this. I'm just, for me, it was the right thing to do. And it wasn't, it was nothing I had to really think about.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to have them sleeping in their car that night. They had kids. Yeah, it was a couple $100, big deal. Do the right thing. I told them pack their swimsuits, enjoy the pool at the hotel.
Yep.
Another day we had the sewer line fixed and they were back in their home. They couldn't believe my response and why I said that, but it's like, no, it's pretty much that simple. I don't have to think through this.
Yeah. And that's something that I think about often, man, and definitely is a core value that I'm really trying to instill, as time goes on.
Yeah, just stay true to yourself. If you have a baseline, if you have a moral code, then just lock that in.
Of course.
There are just times in any given day where you have to make some 99%.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. So it's what to do. We'll figure it out. We'll work it out. If we got to put them in a hotel room, or we got to hire a plumber, electrician, baker, candlestick maker, whatever it is. Properties are easy because you can look at it, you can figure it out, and you can fix it. Keeping the relationship solid, that's the hard part.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, man. I remember the adage that's thrown around sometimes. I forget exactly who said it. It might have been like Warren Buffett or somebody like that. That I think it was like it takes like 20 years to build a reputation, but like 5 seconds to destroy it. Like something like that.
Yeah.
And it's
that's so true. It just takes one cut corner that will bring down the whole house of cards. Definitely. And you'll get found out. I know that we had that conversation before. If you always do the right thing, that'll follow you, and you can continue to grow and prosper and provide opportunities and add value to other people's businesses. But as soon as it becomes adversarial, like I'm going to win and you're going to lose, there's only so many more games you can play, and people just won't want to sit at the table with you because they know there's a high probability risk of losing doing a deal with you, and that just doesn't work. Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Totally. I totally agree. Yeah, and that's something that I really love about real estate, man, is like just that the constant possibility of, a win-win like across the board, and it really is a beautiful thing. And like you were mentioning earlier, with doing orchestrating, some of like the bigger syndication deals, like, it can certainly be a win for you guys, general partners, limited partners, the tenants themselves, and like everybody in this whole entire thing, can win, right? And it's such a beautiful thing, and it's something that I definitely never get over, because it's just like I haven't really found anything else like this, or like everybody can give and also receive at the same time as well.
So one of the ways that works can make the tenant's life better. When you buy a larger property, or even if it's a 3-family or a single family house or any type of real estate investment, you're looking for some type of value add where you can either cut the expenses or raise the rents, or some type of thing where the trajectory as it goes out in time is the tenants, whether they be commercial or residential, are paying down your premium while that spread and equity is growing over time. Your payments are going down, the rents are going up, and if your expenses are going up on top of that, just operating the property efficiently is a value add. Now, whether it's 3-family, 4-family, 6, or 150 units, there's the same type of strategies that you can apply to add value. Cost segregation. Okay. Everybody hears about this. What does it mean? We could have a whole discussion on that, but I'm just going to hit the high points. In either 5, 7, or 15 years, you can take 27 and a half years of depreciation off on your taxes. So that's a huge way to reduce your expense. And at the same time, if you have a 5 or a 10% trajectory of rental increase, you've lowered your expenses, you've raised your income. Okay. Now, what does that do to the value of a property, right? If you're doing a 10 cap rate, if you've increased revenue $10,000, you've increased the value $100,000. Okay, so that's a huge number, and that's on a 3-family. If you did a cost segregation on a larger property, you operated it properly, found some ancillary businesses that you can add to it, dog park, vending machines and laundry room, whatever, something like that, extra fees or parking fees, or not so much to be a nuisance, but other ways to generate revenue. If you're creating that spread, on that 10 cap, you've increased the value of your property 10 times. So on a larger deal, if you've increased 200,000, that's $2 million that you've increased to the value of the property. Now, there's a lot of moving parts here, right? There's not just one thing that you can do as a strategy, but it's a combination of this plus that multiplied by this. That increased the value of that property $2 million. So what does that look like if you went in and did a cash out refi? That's outrageous.
Yeah.
Because you don't pay taxes on the cash out refi. So you've done all these small little tweaks and calculations to get to a pretty good number. That multiplies out to the value of the property. You do a cash out, all your investors are thrilled because this is frosting and ice cream and cherries on top of their investment that they're getting just for being in the deal. Now, yeah, you're going to cash out, your numbers are going to shift and vary a little bit, but that's a nice chunk of change. I mean, if you have $2 million to split up amongst your investors, your LPs are going to be thrilled. And has it really cost a lot? Maybe, a couple $100,000 to get to that point. It depends on what you had to do. I mean, adding a vending machine, if you bought a bus, if it were an elderly senior type of development, what do they need? They need a van or something to help them go grocery shopping. So you buy a $30,000-$40,000 van, and that helps you increase the rents across the board. I mean, it looks like a big number. Oh, we're going to spend 30, 40 grand. But if you've increased the value of the property, $300,000, that's like 10%
No-brainer.
of what you've increased the value.
Yeah.
The whole point is to look at this plus this multiplied by that as a value add. Some people just come in with the blinders on saying, well, we're going to cut all of our expenses. We're only going to mow the lawn once a month, and we're going to raise the rent $200, $300. You may have just hurt yourself. You have to maybe shop out that landscaper to find a better landscaper who will mow 2 or maybe 3 times a month. Someone will do it cheaper, and give you good quality.
Yeah.
Cheaper isn't always necessarily the right answer. Adding value is always the right answer, because if you add value to the property, that's going to come out in the numbers on the long term. And some of these entities, sometimes you're a property that you only want to hold for 5 to 7 years and be out. So the cost segregation makes it a great strategy, and you can refi halfway through that and then sell it and double dip that ice cream cone twice. The first time is going to be no capital gains. So if you actually did that refi before selling it, you could really, really reduce the capital gains your investors are going to see after the fact. They could take a lot of meat off of the bone and then have less of a tax burden when you do sell it.
Wow.
So yeah, there's so many combinations. Yeah, it's like the other day, we were so bummed. We were in Massachusetts. We wanted to go surprise that had generational ramifications. I mean, I can't wait for my grandchildren to get 18 years old so I can put that strategy into use. So I've been going blah, blah, blah here a lot, but I wanted to do this. This is your 100th episode, Kyle.
It is.
You've got to have some highlights and features of some of your past guests. I mean, I went through your roster looking at some of your podcasts. It's like, oh yeah, I know him. I've done work with him, had many conversations with him. You've had some rock stars on your platform here. You've spoken to all kinds of really high net worth people. What are some of the that you been able to pull away now here at 100 episodes?
Man, like it's hard for me to jump in because like there's so many, you know what I mean? Like usually like right after I do an episode, like my head's going a million miles a minute. Like I have the high of a lifetime and like I'm already trying to figure out like how certain things can be applied. And it's a lot of fun, man, you know, because like I've always enjoyed hearing any story at all, right? Like whether you're still looking for your first building or your first flip, or you know, you're buying 100 units at a time. You know, I feel like everybody has something to give, and you know, everybody's got a story at the end of the day, you know, and it's so exciting. And like I've gotten so much out of the podcast myself personally, but you know, the main thing for me has always been, you know, just to try to give as much value as possible. You know, like hear like the good times, the bad times with guests and everything, and like, you know, they're kind of like rise to where they are, and like maybe things they would have did differently. And it's it's been a lot of fun, you know. And it's yeah, I love to hear the stories, man. I've gotten so many like life takeaways, and like, you know, it just, you know, it just encouragement, you know, because it can definitely be a challenge sometimes to you know, when things aren't really going your way, but eventually they will go your way, you know, as long as you keep pushing and everything. And you know, just keep putting yourself out there, keep doing your thing, you know, keep always networking, just kind of giving as much as you can, and keep it on the journey, you know. It's definitely
I've gone through and I've been listening to your podcast. I knew I was going to ask you this question, so I went through some of your podcasts. Lian Vyong, she had a great one, The Audacity to Dream. And
yes.
she meets with her team members on Wednesdays. And that's like a weekly mastermind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they hold each other accountable. They put their goals on the table, and they say they'll hold each other accountable and not hitting it, have to do to hit it, and have that clear crystal vision of where they're going. I mean, she, I think, said she wanted to be at $1 million in revenue by 2025,
Yeah.
right? And then you had Nick Alrud on there. Nick's blown me away since I first met him, from where he is now to where he was when I first met him. And what does he always say? Shut up and do it, right? He's just laser focused. So many of the interviewers, they just had that vision, that crystal clarity of what they wanted, where they were going. They had their criteria locked in, their buy box. They knew exactly what they wanted. And some of them are operating with several different buy boxes because they're running so many different businesses. But they all have that plan. They all have that goal and mission. So yeah, we've got our own thing going on, but I've seen over and over and over in your interviews, no one's just saying, well, you know, I threw some spaghetti on the wall to see if it sticked, and hey, we got lucky. No, you're at 100 podcasts of very intentional investors who saw what they wanted, had a laser focus, targeted right in, and just went after it. Damn all the torpedoes, made it happen.
Thank you so much, Brian. And honestly, like kind of thinking about
Yeah.
it, I'd say it definitely like a main focus, you know, from most of the guests that come on probably would be intention, you know, and intention and vision, you know, and just kind of believing that you're able to get yourself out of that position, or, you know, believe that you're able to start, you know, actually working towards that master vision that you have. And like the amount of people that have come on, you know, working like W-2 jobs that they don't like, and, you know, they're miserable and everything, and have been able to use real estate investing as a way to be able to get out of that and change like the dynamic of their family and their lives and everything. Like that's the stuff that really gets me going. Is like it's real, you know, and like these people are like around us. They're like driving distance to us, Brian. And like that's something that has always, you know, really resonated with me. Like this real estate thing, guys, it's a real thing, I promise. You know, like you know, and
Well, not all of us are in driving distance anymore. So
some
yeah.
of us are within boat distance, plane distance, pelican
So
distance.
I Pelicans. Yeah. So I think I'm setting a record here for being your first international call.
Yeah. Yeah, actually. Yep. You get lots of
Wow, that's pretty good. Your 100th episode was an international investing call. Yeah, happy to have it.
yeah, it
Yeah,
just
and
it means a lot, Brian. It really does, man.
so we're always looking around at what if scenarios, right?
Yep.
So here we're where we are on Eagle Beach. We've looked around at short-term rentals and all that type of stuff. And being out of the country, it's a little different. I cannot express how blessed and fortunate all of your guests and the people on your platform, all you different people you've interviewed, how blessed they are to be in the United States, where you can leverage a down payment to take control of a multi-million-dollar asset without having to put multi-millions of dollars in. And even that you can create wealth for other people by putting little or no money of your own into the deal. The United States is a wonderful, wonderful place to invest. We've looked at possibly doing some things down here. And honestly, when the numbers came down and the rubber hit the road, what we would have to invest cash here, we could leverage to millions of dollars in the United States.
Really?
So
That's interesting. Yeah, how is the
yeah,
how is like financing down there? Like loan products? Like what is that kind of, is it a lot lower LTV and like what does that kind of look like? I'm
oh
very
no.
curious.
Well, your down payment is anywhere from 50 to 60%.
Oh my goodness.
There's only like 2 or 3 banks that you can use here on the island. And one of them requires you to have a minimum running balance of $50,000 to $60,000 a month.
Wow.
So it's not really conducive. I mean, what we know in the United States, that you can put a down payment and get institutional funding. My goodness, what a wonderful, wonderful country. And then when you step outside the borders and look at investing, like where we live here, we bought this cash. Just looking at what we needed to do this is like, no, we'll just write a check and we'll be done.
Mm-hmm.
So we pay our HOAs down here. We enjoy sunsets. We have our coffee, looking at our garden out on the veranda
Plants.
there.
Yes. How are the plants doing, my friend? How are the flowers?
They survived.
Oh,
They
I love
survived.
it.
Tomorrow is Thursday. So it's Senior Citizens Day at Fantastic Gardens, where we can save 10 to 15% off.
All
So
right.
we're going shopping tomorrow. We've got about 40 different plants out there, all tropical plants. And it's wonderful. We'll get our coffee beans from Colombia. I mean, this sounds so foam, but it's so nice to have reached a point where we can sit out there in the morning. We're overlooking the Caribbean Ocean, having a wonderful cup of coffee, looking at the garden that we maintain and prune and all these wonderful flowers. We were sitting there this morning saying, okay, we smell the flower, but which one is it? It was the jasmine right behind us. We had watered it. And it's already blooming. Again, kudos go out to Maria and Marina for taking care of our babies while we were gone. We cleaned it all up, and it's just wonderful to be able to start the day that way, and then come in here on my multiple screen setup and just crush business. and then at the end of the day, be able to catch a wonderful sunset, have the boats going by. I think I've sent you a few pictures of videos of
Mm-hmm.
what our front yard looks like at sunset. And then just being able to safely go out for a walk at night, wonderful weather. And yeah, it's been great. Yeah, okay, we worked our butts off. We got here, but I'm not dead yet.
Amen.
There are still deals out there. I've got family members, investors, grandchildren, and I just want to do this again. I want to ring that bell again. You know which Super Bowl is the hardest to win? The second one. Because
Ah,
the first one, you work really hard to get there, and then you think, okay, I have arrived. I don't have to work as hard anymore. And you've got that arrival syndrome. And the coach of the 49ers, I think he won like 7 or 9 different Super Bowls. And they had hit that complacency level where they had to try even harder to keep the pressure on themselves because, yeah, we knew we already did this. So it kind of softens up the game.
mm-hmm.
The Patriots were famous for this, right? They always assume the role of an underdog. You know, it's like everybody hates us, nobody wants us to win, and
Yep.
we're going to go in there and prove everybody wrong.
Boston sports, man. Same thing with the Bruins too, you know, like a couple I think it was like last week. There was a game where they were like down 3 and they ended up coming back, and I believe it was OT and winning it. We love that stuff over here, man. We absolutely love it.
Yeah, and just apply that same tenacity, audacity to your business. I mean, dare to challenge yourself that high, dare to put yourself at that level where you get nosebleeds because the height is so higher than you can imagine you've ever been. But take that risk, take that chance, and shoot for it, right?
Love it.
Um, yeah, it's 100 episodes, man. That's an accomplishment. I
Aw.
mean, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some of your podcasts here, an hour, 45 minutes, 46 minutes. I mean, just the time and preparation and the wealth of knowledge that you have now that you can offer people to help other people get on your shoulders for some of the giants in the industry that you've interviewed and the value that you're going to add to so many lives. And you're not stopping at 100.
No,
You're
sir.
going to keep going.
No way.
Your second sign on the wall there, hustle until you no longer have to introduce yourself. Yeah. I'm Kyle, the man behind the curtain. Welcome to my podcast. Sure.
Aw, it means a lot, Brian. And so to stem back to something you said a minute ago about, you know, like just shooting as high as you possibly can. So there's something that has been like really present in my mind for the past, I believe it's been a month. And basically like, so I went to so Nick Allerud and Gordon Thornton, they I don't know if you know about the Ignition, REI Ignition. It's like a Facebook group, like mastermind type of thing.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, so I'm a part of their group. Absolutely love it, guys. Love you guys. And they hosted a 3-day event in Burlington. You know, just like learn about life, learn about real estate, like, you know, have like lots of awesome stuff going on. And it was absolutely life-changing for many different reasons, Brian. But the point that I'm gonna make is literally like it's not, this is something that's like really been like setting deep in my soul, man, like recently, is it's not necessarily the actual like tactical real estate stuff that is the most difficult. It's more your mind in believing that you can actually go and do this stuff, and like the self-limiting beliefs and like just pushing and like just literally go out, you know, generate the opportunities and just build the parachute on the way down, you know, and like obviously, you know, like do due diligence and all that fun stuff. Don't get me wrong, but like it's our mind that's one of the biggest challenges out there. And it's something that's like really been like becoming apparent. And I went to a 2-day event with Tom Caffarella that he was putting on last week. And same type of thing, man. Literally, like they were talking about, there was a guy on Tom's team that found an 88 unit deal in Nashua, New Hampshire off of Craigslist. And like he brought it to the team and like they brought him on as a GP and like literally, like no money out of pocket. And like they're just, I just love the concept so much, right? Of like literally just go out, find the opportunities and just do it. Like, don't let your mind stop you. Like just run and see like how high you can take it and just keep freaking going. And it's something that, I've heard it a decent amount, but it never really sank in until literally like the past month in a couple different ways. And I literally like, I'm so thankful for like all of that stuff. And like, I can feel my mind changing right now. And it's crazy, and me and a partner, we're kind of working together because we're starting to look for 6 to 20 unit deals from Lowell to Leominster. Now, I'm in the process of taking out a HELOC right now. We're just kind of like, trying to put stuff together. We definitely need to raise the money. And, I'm not like whatever, but the point being like, we don't know necessarily where the majority of the money is coming from yet, but we just need to find the deal, put the team together and just make it work, and literally like, I'm like swimming into open water, like just from hearing, all this absolutely wonderful advice, from all these different guys over the past couple of weeks. And literally, Brian, like we sent out our first campaign 2 days ago and we got a lead yesterday for a 13 unit building in a nearby town. Now, it wasn't a very, very hot lead. And I mean, we went back and forth with the seller a couple times, and like he was afraid of like the capital gains and, because he's had the building for so long. And there were multiple things that were going through my head, right? I'm like, oh, what about like seller financing or a 1031 or like all these different things going on, right? Like, how do we make this happen? And I went back to the REI Ignition group and I was like, literally like, I need to ask like the best people out there. And this is another tip, for the listeners. Literally like the teams, to your points earlier, Brian, the teams that you surround yourself, like literally can put you in places that you couldn't even imagine, right? And like literally, like the first question I asked, like as soon as I got this thing back from the seller, I went right to the group and there was a couple of people in there that said like multiple different things that I could try and offer. And literally like I went right back to the seller and like, was telling him about it. And he was saying, he's like, oh, like I think I've been kind of grooming my son, he's probably going to take over the property and stuff like that, but thank you for your interest. And I was asking them, I'm like, oh, I'm like, totally get it. Totally understand. I'm like, how soon do I follow up? But it just like the point being, Brian, like the self-limiting belief that I had before these events was like, oh yeah, like 6 to 10 units for the next one, 110%. Like I never really wanted to buy another 2 to 4 unit, but I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash to put down. And like, how am I going to do this partnership thing? And like, I was always going down this rabbit hole until I started to hear this very, very actionable advice of literally that: go out, find the opportunities, figure it out as you go. And literally like, I'm just in that like action, like just freaking take action and go, and like, yeah, I mean, obviously, but it just, I don't know. It was just kind of like a proof of concept. And like, I was freaking out with, my buddy Chris about it. I'm like, dude, I'm like, like this was just the first time. And we literally just talked to a seller of a 13 unit, which for us, like trying to do this type of thing is like brand new, you know what I mean? And it's crazy. Like it's the mind, Brian. And like, that's like been something that has been a huge, huge focus for me, is literally like, just go out and do it, and like, obviously, like I said, like you never want to cut out due diligence, like, cut corners, like you always want to do your homework, but like limit, like just go out and take action and like just learn as you go, and don't, spend the whole time in analysis paralysis. And what if this happens? What if this doesn't? Just go out and freaking do it. And like, damn, you know?
Yeah, mindset. That's it.
Totally.
That's the game. And I've been doing this so long that I don't even think about my mindset anymore. I'm constantly solving problems on the fly.
Yeah.
Like your whole scenario that you just explained,
Uh-huh.
I've got another solution for you.
Yeah.
So try this one on for size. I heard you say the capital gains was an issue for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So just follow this rabbit hole here.
Yes.
He owns the property.
Mm-hmm.
He puts it into a trust. Somebody makes payments to the trust, like a mortgage, to take over the property. He does not have to take distributions from the trust, which will trigger a capital gains. But the trust can invest in whatever he wants.
Incredibly interesting. And it's absolutely nuts, man. And literally like,
it's so
sorry.
simple.
Yeah. And literally like I would have no idea if it wasn't for, like the team and like, like building the network and guys, literally like the sky is the limit for like literally anything you want to do. And like it sounds corny, but like it's so freaking true. Like if you have something that you're struggling with, like there's most likely somebody out there who has, done this before and like, ran the race, got the t-shirt, the whole 9 yards. Like if you guys are able to literally like just help each other out, like you can take on the world, and like literally just go out, talk to people, go to events, real estate events. They're free. Like most of the time they're free, and literally just like go out and learn and create meaningful relationships and care and like literally just be a person, like everybody's like working on this stuff together and like everybody wants to help each other and just go out and do it. You never know. We're trying to change our futures here. Like, like it's totally possible.
So I've been doing this over 20 years, and that whole trust scenario thing that I just explained to you was something I only learned about a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
Because we were looking at, if it's a large property, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars on that capital gain. Yeah, no, that'll slow somebody down, if not stop the deal.
Yeah.
But if you're able to solve their problem, okay, we can bypass your capital gains and you can access the money through an entity that you control to invest in whatever you want. You could go buy Bitcoin. I don't care, because they control the asset. So they still hold the real estate in a different entity, one of those Russian dolls. Someone else is paying for the entity. They're getting that money that they can utilize, but never take it as a distribution. So there's no capital gains. Do you think that might be able to solve a problem of getting someone over the fence for a seller
100%.
finance? And it's not even a seller finance, because now the property is in a trust, which has its own, if you do the trust right, then no one sees who the trustee is. And I'm not even going to get into that because I've paid lawyers tens of thousands of dollars for that answer, but we're going to keep that one under wraps. So yeah, it's solving problems, whether it's putting that tenant in a hotel for the night or trying to get that seller finance deal where the guy's not going to have to pay $250,000 in capital gains tax. And you see behind me all these books. I implore. If you don't like to read, get the audiobook, but keep feeding yourself ideas. Keep feeding yourself knowledge. That whole concept that I just touched on, we were listening to an audiobook. My wife and I were traveling a lot. So it's like, hey, listen to this. We had to drive out to New York. So it was a 3-hour trip back and forth. Listen to this audiobook, and we were just tearing it apart with all the different ideas that were in there. The last 3 books I read this year were The Power of Just One More, which is phenomenal. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Ed I can't
Milet?
think of Ed Milet was The Power of One More. Darren Hardy was The Compound Effect. And then I read one like out of left field, which was Think Again by Adam Grant. And that was very interesting. Not a real estate book. He's a psychologist. So his whole thing was like, just look at the problem, right? And he used all kinds of real life examples of NASA and the space program and what they assumed was okay. And then space shuttles blew up. So it forced them to rethink how they did things. Different firefighters who, you would never think it would be intuitive to drop all your tools and start a fire to save your life in the middle of a fire. But there's all these different examples in the book of like, okay, well, this is how we would normally approach this, but what if?
Yeah.
And from here, what's the end result? Can you reverse engineer that, right? Like, I don't want to burn to death. So what do I need to do in my current situation to keep myself from being a curly fry?
Yeah.
Right. And, real estate is a lot easier than dealing with a life or death situation.
Hopefully.
But there's just ways to look at it as a transaction engineer, as a problem solver. And, it's adding value from the moment you wake up. And, I'm wired this way. I drive my wife insane because I'm always thinking, what if? And, okay, we do pretty good, but what could be better? What could we do better? And we have this running joke when way back when Bel-Air wanted to scale and manage for other people, because we used to only manage our portfolio. I tease her about this all the time. She likes to walk in the water in the beach. And for me to have this conversation with her, I had to get in the water, walking beside her, because I couldn't get her to break out of her routine. So I had to break out of my routine and meet her where she was and have the hard conversation saying, look, we need a type of software that will do X, Y, Z. She's like, no, we don't. It's like, no, let's just try it. And we tried it, and that was life-changing for us. And now it reassured and reaffirmed in me that, okay, there's going to be those moments where we look at how things are run and say, okay, fine, let's put that on the shelf. And if we had to rebuild it from start, what if? And if we did this, and if we did that. And sometimes you'll come full circle and be maybe 5 degrees off from where you were. But that 5-degree trajectory over time is phenomenal. It's the difference of reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and actually understanding the difference between an asset and a liability, as to working hard at your job 9 to 5 for your entire life, thinking your primary home is your biggest asset.
Exactly.
You know exactly what I'm saying, because I know you've read the book.
Many a time.
And if anyone's seeing this podcast for the first time and don't know what I'm talking about, go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes. I was telling somebody a couple nights ago. I went out to dinner with this investor, and we were talking about, how like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like kind of got like most of us going, generally speaking. I'm definitely in that crowd. And I was telling him, I'm like, I paid $8 for Rich Dad Poor Dad on Amazon. That's probably going to be the highest returning like activity that I will ever do because that changed everything. Like that
Yeah.
changed my entire life and hopefully generations from one
And,
$8 book on the internet. Like,
and after you read that one, you have to read Cash Flow Quadrant.
so it's funny you say that because I've owned Cash Flow Quadrant for a while. I have like 4 or 5 books that I've bought, for a while, and I haven't read them yet. And that's one of them. And I actually, the guy I was with a couple nights ago, we were talking about that one too. He's like, yeah, dude, you got to read that one too. I'm like, I've never read it. I'm like, I have it. I have it in my possession. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah. So the employee, the self-employed, the business owner, the entrepreneur, the
Yeah.
employee makes the least amount of money and pays the most amount of taxes. And then throughout that scale, all the way to the entrepreneur who makes the most amount of money and pays the least amount of taxes. So,
It's crazy
yeah.
stuff.
And Leanne Young, I think that's me. Oh my God, I'm getting a call. Sorry about this.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I gotta go. I'm on a podcast right now. So they fixed the internet. Excellent. Thanks, Frankie. Bye-bye. No more pelicans.
No more pelicans. Woo!
They fixed the internet on the island. Great. Hey, I'm so sorry to your listeners that just happened.
It's quite okay, my friend.
That phone never rings here on the island. So when it rings, I got to answer it.
It's
But
awesome.
yeah, I want to get back on track there. The Leanne Young even mentioned cash flow quadrant in her interview.
Yeah.
And it's so important to just know the difference of those things. And you compound that with Michael Gerber's The E-Myth and the franchise prototype and looking at your business as a business plan. These are so important to do. It goes right back to being intentional about what you're doing and just knowing where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, you'll absolutely get there. You'll have no idea where you are. But if you know where you're going and you're targeted and intentional and focused, then there is no other option. You're burning the boats behind you.
I love it. The first time I heard that analogy too, I forget if that one was in the E-Myth or I forget what book it was, man, but like they were actually telling the story of like, some like battle in Greece or something like that. And like, like they were storming the island and they like, burned the boats behind them. And like, it was, kind of told as like an actual story. I forget what book it was, but the first time.
I think it
It
was
was?
Think and Grow
Oh,
Rich by Napoleon Hill. Pretty
probably.
sure that was the reference.
It probably was, yeah. I have to read that one again. It's actually been a decent amount of time since I've read that one.
Right there, next to the power of one more.
Yes.
Let's see. Right there, this one.
I haven't read the Compound Effect or the Power of One More. I've heard of the Compound Effect. I've never read it, but definitely add it to the list.
It's establishing those habits that will change the trajectory of where you turn out over time. A really good example in there, these two guys, one wanted to lose weight and have a healthier life. One wanted to watch the Cooking Network. So one guy cooks pastries all the time, puts on 20 pounds, doesn't have the best relationship with his wife because he gets depressed, doesn't do so well in his job, where the other guy decides he's going to read a book or keep reading books, gets smarter, gets a raise, takes better care of his health. So one puts on 30 pounds and one takes off 30 pounds. Well, that's a difference of 60 pounds. And trajectory wise, one guy's going down the tube and the other one's going up the hill. And it's getting easier for the one going up the hill because he's changed his patterns.
It's got momentum.
That compound effect, because I do that, right? And you take that and put it together with Ed Milet's The Power of One More, which was an extremely powerful book for me. I loved reading that book. I'd love to reread it, but I got like 140 other behind me that are beckoning me to turn their pages.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are the last three books I read. The one that I'm reading right now is Your Next Five Moves. That's a business book, and it just talks about like business as a chess game, and thinking about it like all chess players, they'll think about each piece on the board, five moves on this piece, five moves on that piece, and what could be the outcome. So again, it boils down to being intentional. It boils down to having a habit. It boils down to changing the way you do things and how you see the game.
I love it, man. That's awesome. So I remember asking you on the episodes many a day ago, many a month ago. But if you had to pick one book, which is probably going to be very difficult with that huge collection behind you that is gorgeous. If you had to pick one business, real estate, or entrepreneurial, any book at all, any book at all that was your favorite, or maybe had the most impact on you, which one is it? You can answer that however you would like, and multiple is good too, even though I just said one.
If I had to say the one book that was the big changer for me, it would be Michael Gerber, The E-Myth Demystified.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
After reading that book, I told my wife we were going to start to manage for other people. And she says, well, what would that look like? And I says, okay. And for the next 3 months, every day, I went to the Leominster Barnes and Noble, which was a Starbucks.
Yep.
And I sat in there for the next 3 months writing out a business plan. 240 pages later, 247 pages later, I had the franchise prototype for Bel-Air Property Management, which now, if I were to sell it off of the EBITDA, maybe 10 million. And it was because I looked at it as a franchise. Like Robert Kiyosaki in Rich Dad, Poor Dad says all the time, he's confronted by these venture capitalists and business people who say, well, I can build I can cook a better hamburger than McDonald's. So I'll be successful. But that's not what McDonald's is.
Yep.
McDonald's is their operational standards. Like I can go to McDonald's in Albany, LA, or Massachusetts, and it's going to be that same patty with 1.5 pickles, a squirt of mustard, ketchup, a half a slice of cheese. It's always going to be, but it's always going to be exactly the same.
Yep.
The exact same experience.
And that to your point, Brian, not to interrupt you, but that the documentary The Founder with Ray Kroc and that one, I like to watch that one once in a while. And yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The E-Myth was a very instrumental book for my mindset, and that was the first time that the concept of like systems and standard operating procedures were, kind of born in my head. And after reading it, like it was all over, man. I'm like, oh my God, I love this stuff. Like fall in love with the systems, and damn.
That was such a hard question to answer because everyone who's viewing this podcast is at a different spot in their race in the game. Whether you're starting or whether you've already been around the lap 2 or 3 times, it's hard to pick one book that would apply to everyone where they are.
Yep.
In their portion of the game or the race they're in. So if you're starting out, you definitely have to look at things as creating that system. I don't care if you're wholesaling properties or doing mailing campaigns, a shotgun approach, aiming at the side of the barn, you're going to hit the barn, but you're not going to have consistent results.
Yep.
if you boil it down to baking a cake, in that book, it's all about pies, literally all
Hmm.
about pies, and being able to create the system so she could walk away from that business and have the person she hired create the same experience that she would have created, which is the same thing we had to do in Bel-Air. My team now, I mean, it was such an epiphany the last time we went back to Massachusetts. We've got 4 workstations, right, in the Massachusetts office. And I walked in and everyone was at a workstation. And I had the epiphany, they don't need me here. They all know what they're doing. They've got their SOPs. They're running down their lane. If I were to walk to the computer, I would only be interfering with their game that they were running. And they were all running their game.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, I went back out to the car. It was a little tearful moment for myself, but I looked at my wife and said, "They don't need me anymore. I don't. I don't need to be here. I'm here as a consultant, pretty much for my business, which frees me up to operate other businesses. We've got, oh my goodness, we've got a Home Angel Foundation, which works with orphans after 18 because they're often shown the door with no opportunity. So that's something near and dear to our team that we want to get up and running. BHB Group has always been around since 2003. So yeah, 20 years on BHB, but that's the company you never hear about because that's the holding company and you should never hear about it. And Bel-Air is the company that's out there, which should be seen. That's where we get the Google reviews. And then we have that ghost company. I think I made mention of that
Hmm.
on the last podcast. That's the company that owns nothing and does nothing, but holds all the equity, which actually funds the deals for BHB Group as a silent partner. So it's a wonderful game. And you know, if you need a piece on the game that you don't have, you just create that piece because at the end of the day, what do? I solve problems. That's it. That's if I had to have a job title, it'd be problem solver.
I love it. That's awesome, man.
So if I
Absolutely.
had to pick a second book, um, let's see. For where I am now, it would be Gene Trowbridge. It's a whole new business. That book, I believe, is $300. I've got 3 of those, and
Solid.
yeah, one of them is actually signed by the author to Big Kahuna. Um, Gene is a syndication lawyer, and very contrarian advice he'd ever given me. It's like, Brian, if you don't need to syndicate a deal, don't do it. But he's a syndication attorney. So if I have got an attorney telling me not to do what he specializes in, then that's the guy I'm going to go to if I ever have to do it. So
Exactly. 100%, man.
yeah,
Always
and
building that team.
so what's your number one business or real estate related book? Here you are. It's 100. You're at your centennial. You get to add to the show.
Ooh, the script has only been flipped on me a couple times in the past 100 episodes. Nick was one of them too. I'm pretty sure he flipped the script on me, and I'm like, oh my god, I wasn't ready for this.
Good job on Nick.
They got
Good
me
going.
good. Um, man, honestly,
Because he can see your soul.
ah, I'd say. So I read one recently that was really good. It was the Four Agreements by
I don't have that on my list. Tell me about it.
I forget who it was, man. I it's literally like a really small book, like the size of the E-Myth type of length, like really, really small. And basically it talks about principles for living like a really, I guess like balanced and enjoyable and like relaxed, I guess, type of lifestyle. And it's pretty much just like 4 key principles. And yeah, I loved it, man. So like one of them was I forget exactly what the phrasing was. Um this kill me. Hold on. Actually, I have it right here.
Oh, good on you.
I have it written down in my my affirmations book here. So the 4 agreements, the first bullet or the first principle is to be impeccable with your word and always spread love and positivity. And basically they refer to like negative energy and like talking crap and stuff like that as like black magic spells. And it says that like, you know, like you can't spread black magic spells because like it actually looks, you know, worse. It actually hurts you more than it hurts other people. And like pretty much just always be impeccable and be spreading positivity and like just giving and loving. And like I don't know, I love it. The next one is to not take anything personally. And this one has been really interesting for me, man, and in a couple different contexts and a couple different areas of my life. Like basically around this concept of taking things personally, like it dug deep in the book about every single one of us on this planet like has the right to have our own vision of how we see the world. And just because like maybe you and the guy next to you see the world in completely different ways and like you clash, like that's like it technically doesn't really make any sense because like that's just you're in kind of like 2 different lanes. And like even if like you argue with each other if like something's great or it sucks or like whatever it is, like it's just 2 different viewpoints. Like it's not actually like I can't, I'm like totally butchering it, I'm sorry, but it's basically like everybody is kind of, you know, has the right to like have their own opinion kind of. And like if you don't agree with the guy next to you, like that's totally cool. Like you guys just kind of do your thing like separate ways. Like you can still be buddies and boys and everything. Like you don't have to fight over it because you don't agree over something, you know. And
You get
like
to, you
kind of
get to
stuff like that.
choose what you get to choose what you care about.
Exactly, 100%. The next one is to not make assumptions. And like always, you know, like if you're like questioning something, like, or if you're like not sure, like you think something's a certain way, but like it might be, it might not be, you're most likely better off to ask a couple more questions and like make sure like you get it right and everything, instead of like just kind of like, oh well, you know, I assumed. And that one, I've tried to implement that one as best as I can. I feel like it's a bit more difficult because a lot of people make assumptions about things and like certain contexts and whatever. But and then the last one is to always do your best. And it's
Yeah.
basically like just this book about these four agreements that if you can make these with yourself, like, you know, if other people are bringing negative energy to the table or whatever it might be, like if you're able to not take it personally, like you guys are just gonna like you can coincide together and like everything's cool even though you see things in like drastically different ways. um you know, like if you're always doing your best, like even if, you know, things kind of crap out on you, like, you know what, like you gave it your best shot, you know, and it is what it is. You can only do what you can do. um and yeah, you know, like staying impeccable with your word. And I don't know. It wasn't the biggest impact on me, but it was a very large impact on me. And it was like so simple, you know, and that's something that I've kind of seen, Brian, is some of these books and like some of these conversations with people that you have, like, at least for me, it seemed like the stuff that might hit the most and like really like dig deep into your soul and like your mind and everything is stuff that sounds so simple when like you're having that conversation. Literally, like, you know, take care of people, love people, period. and like build like really cool, like, really big things and everything. Like if you like genuinely appreciate the other person that you're working with or clients or whatever it might be, like all the time, things are going to be hunky-dory, and obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but like generally speaking, and literally like even the mindset stuff, like, what, like you want to go, buy a first 2 to 4 unit off the market or whatever it is. All right. Like go send mail, like go do it. Like you can do it, like go nuts, or like you want to, syndicate that first deal. All right. Like, what are the steps you need to take to go do that? Like who are the people you need to bring together? Like don't let your mind stop you. Just go out and do it. And like it sounds so simple, but like it's almost us that complicates these things as humans, right? And it's like I've been learning a lot about like the minds, and it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, Henry Ford was quoted as saying, if you don't, or if, how does he say it? If you believe you can't do something, you're right.
Yeah.
And if you believe you can do something, you're right.
It's so true.
It comes back to mindset.
Yep. 100%. But Brian, as always.
So here we are. I think that we're an hour and 45 minutes in here. So I think I'm going to be another 2 episodes at least.
This one, it's probably gonna have to be one, because I might have recorded 101 and 102 already. So guys, you're gonna get a nice action-packed twofer in this one. It's gonna be awesome.
Well, you can always put me off to like 105 or something like that.
No, I saved
the
spot 100 for you, my friend, just for you.
I do appreciate that more than you know.
But,
so how can we wrap this up? Any last words of wisdom? I mean, again, congratulations on a centennial of episodes here. Look forward to just seeing what's coming out of the box with you. So what are the next steps for Kyle? Where you had mentioned your partnership with these deals, the home equity.
mm-hmm.
So where are you going? Where's your laser focused vision bringing you?
Yes, sir. So in the very, very short term, the 3-family in Leominster, I got it with FHA, so I only had to be there for a year, and my year is coming up in a month. So
Nice.
I ran some numbers, and I ran some numbers in 2 different situations. One as me living for free and like, still cash flowing a bit, and well, actually, covers pretty much just PITI, but whatever. Like the debt service is covered. Or I ran it in another situation on if I moved back in with my parents and got that 3rd unit rented, now that I'm allowed to. And I made a very quick decision once I saw, the returns on something like that. Like you mentioned, I'm currently in the process of going through a HELOC to hopefully have something liquid in the next couple weeks, to be able to jump on a bigger deal if something comes up. And just kind of finishing up stabilizing the unit that I'm in now, going to be moving home, and then using the most, if not all, of the return in cash flow from this property for marketing and VAs and stuff like that, to start looking for more opportunities and continuing to push the limits, my friend.
I got to give you props too. I owe you a huge thank you. I think we did a Pints and Property in Worcester from Aruba. After that call, we were talking about your VA, and I went out for a walk after that, and I was just chewing on what you said about the time difference and everything. And it helped me to solve another problem we had here in our business. And now we've got Maria and Marina as virtual assistants right here on the island. They speak Dutch, English, Spanish, Papimento. So yeah, it just worked out really well. And they're in the same time zone, and really smart kids. So Yeah, thank you. You pushed me in a direction I didn't know was available. So
Aw,
thanks.
thank you so much, Brian. Holy crap, man. But yeah,
Well, you never know.
exactly.
The conversations you have, you never know what you're going to walk away with. So
You're
yeah,
totally
I
right.
hope that this has been entertaining. I hope it's been fun.
A blast,
Um,
always.
and, yeah, I look forward to the next one. I mean, I don't want to forecast out too far, but yeah, I'd like to come back on after we've achieved some of the other goals and maybe talk about some of the challenges that we had to get over to get there. I think
I
that
love it.
might be valuable.
That sounds fantastic, man. You let me know anytime. So Brian, we're on social media, on like your website, anything, everything and anything about you guys. I will link it down below.
Sure. So we just launched, it's not completely done yet, but we've revised bhbgroup.com. We've had that website, oh goodness, since 2001, 2013, something like that. It's got some of our mentors on there. You'll see me with some pretty recognizable celebrities of
Ooh.
people who've mentored us and coached us along the way. Uh, Always Bel-Air.co. That's another business. Home Angel Foundation is something near and dear to our heart, but that's still in flux. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to that to develop programs for orphans when they do hit 18. But some of that is to bring them under mentorship and show them some of the things that we've done so maybe they can create wealth for themselves. And the goal is to have them work together as a team because they already have a bond there. And it's going to be challenging because a lot of these kids don't feel love and don't have that mentor. So we want to be able to do that. And for us to do that, we have to get the other businesses where we are hands off so we can be more hands on. So bhbgroup.com, homeangelfoundation.org, and belair.co. Then we're at Bel-Air Property on Instagram. We're on Facebook with BHB and Bel-Air Property. And we collect rent with Venmo and Cash App.
Well,
Yeah,
once
we
it
got a whole
all
bunch of we got a whole bunch of digital entities there as well. So yeah.
beautiful, my friend. Thank you so much for everything, Brian. Seriously, it's been they've been incredibly blessed, to kind of be in your presence and have our conversations and learn the things that I have from you. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what the future brings.
We are also blessed to be on this podcast to share what we have with your platform and your listeners. And if there's anything that we've been able to help solve a problem for them, that's wonderful. And I just commend you on the audacity to get to 100 episodes, and may you hit 1,000. So
Thank you so much.
So, you didn't know I was going to do this, but I'm also going to sign us out. So, ladies and gentlemen, Zoomers in the room, this is Brian Lucier from BHB Group here with Kyle Curtin, the man with the plan behind the curtain at Creating Wealth Podcast, signing off episode 100. Thank you and have a great investment day.
All right, guys, that concludes our Creating Wealth Podcast episode for today. I want to thank every single person that has listened this far. It really means a lot to know that people can learn from me and with me as we build wealth together. Hopefully, you can take home at least one thing from this podcast that will improve your life just a little bit. If you could, please check me out on social. That's at Kyle Curtin Real Estate on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm on BiggerPockets. Until next time, let's build together.